Hi, this is Jimmy Norris with ElkHuntersGuide.com. I've got a trivia question for you today. What were the two standing orders that Lieutenant Dan gave to Forrest Gump when he arrived in Vietnam? I'll get the answer for you in a minute. But first, I want to tell you that today's video is the third in a series. The first video was 5 essential features of elk hunting boots. The second video was 5 choices you need to make when you're buying elk hunting boots. Now, the answer to that trivia question? Well, the first standing order that Lieutenant Dan gave to Forrest Gump was take care of your feet. The second one was don't do something stupid like getting yourself killed. Well, both of those things are great advice, but today I want to focus on the first one, taking care of your feet. So today I'm going to give you 5 tips for taking care of your feet while you're elk hunting. You know, a couple of years ago, a friend of mine told me a story. He had been out hunting and he saw 2 men carrying a third man. Well, he figured something must be seriously wrong, so he went to go see if he could help. Well, as it turned out, the 2 men doing the carrying were guides, and the man being carried was their client. You see, the client had trimmed his toenails just before the hunt, and he trimmed them so short that his toes got so sore he couldn't even walk and had to be carried out. Now, when you think of an elk hunting video, you probably don't think of trimming toenails. But I'm telling you, it's an important thing because those little things are what can make or break your hunt. So, some tips about trimming your toenails. Number 1, don't do it right before the hunt. Trim your toenails a week or more before the hunt. And when you do, trim them based on the guidelines. Trim them straight across. Don't trim them too short. Trim them at the end of your toe or just slightly less. And then make sure you file off the rough edges to ensure that your toenails don't catch on something and get torn. The second recommendation I have for you when it comes to taking care of your feet when you're elk hunting is to get the right socks. Whatever you do, don't wear cotton socks. Cotton will just trap the moisture from your feet when you perspire. And that moisture is going to make your feet cold whenever you stop. It's going to make your feet tend to blister. Don't wear cotton socks. But what kind of socks should you wear? Well, there's lots of high-performance synthetic blends out there that you can get, and I'm sure they're fine. I haven't tried them, but my favorite is merino wool. So several companies make good quality merino wool socks, and here's what I like about them. So first of all, they wick the moisture away from your feet and keep your feet dry. And they're soft, they don't itch, they're really cushy. A friend of mine, first time he wore merino wool socks, he said it was like walking on pillows. And it kind of is. They're just really comfy. And so they keep your feet warm even when wet, because wool will insulate even when it's wet. So merino wool is my recommendation on the way to go. Now, all merino wool isn't necessarily the same. The socks need to be good quality socks. And the way you can tell that is check the seam on the socks. And if it has a really thick seam, that seam's going to rub your toes and give you blisters. These socks, you can see the seam, but you really can't even feel it because it's just made so well that you really can't even feel that seam. One tip, I wear 2 pair at a time. My boots fit better that way, but it also gives me more insulation, more cushion, and allows my feet to stay drier because it's wicking more moisture away, and it also prevents blisters. So you might think about that when you're buying socks and boots. So the third tip I want to mention for taking care of your feet while elk hunting shouldn't surprise you, and that's to use a good foot powder. You know, all of our feet perspire. Some of us have feet that perspire more than others, And a good foot powder will help take care of your feet. It'll keep them dry. It'll keep you from getting athlete's foot and blistering. And so get you a good foot powder and take it hunting with you and use it as needed. The next tip I have for you in taking care of your feet while elk hunting is to make sure that your boots fit right. So I told the story in the last video about some boots that I had that were too small, and I went on a backpacking trip in Yellowstone, and by the end of the trip my feet were blistered and my toenails had turned black. It was just miserable. So make sure you get boots that fit right. When you're trying them on, make sure that you're wearing the same socks that you're going to be wearing when you're hunting, and that way you know how they're going to fit. And make sure you can wiggle your toes. Make sure your feet don't slide around when you're walking in them. Good fitting boots are critical to take care of your feet when you're elk hunting. The final tip I have for you in taking care of your feet while elk hunting is first aid. Now, first of all, I want to warn you, if you begin to feel that your foot is forming a blister because it's rubbing inside your boot, whatever you do, don't power through. So many of us want to ignore the pain and just keep hunting, and I understand that, but you'll regret it if you do. So stop right there and take your boot off, take your sock off, and apply some first aid. Now, what kind of first aid? Well, I always keep moleskin in my pack. So moleskin is inexpensive, it's self-adhesive. You peel off the back, you cut a piece out that's just the right size, and it can be applied to either your foot or the inside of your boot, wherever the spot is that's rubbing, and it'll keep it from abrading and forming a blister. So keep some of this moleskin in your pack, and keep some extra socks in your pack. Swapping out socks might help prevent you from getting blisters. Another thing is when you're back at camp in the evening, then have some foot balm or some lotion that you can put on your feet that's medicated and help heal those feet overnight so that you'll be ready to go hunting the next day. So there you have it, my 5 tips for taking good care of your feet while you're elk hunting. Number 1, trim your toenails properly. Number 2, wear the right socks. Number 3, use good foot powder. Number 4, wear boots that fit properly. And number 5, have first aid available when you need it. And don't forget Lieutenant Dan's orders. Take good care of your feet, and don't do something stupid like getting yourself killed. So what do you think? Did I forget something? Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Either way, scroll down and leave me a comment. I really do appreciate the feedback. And if you haven't downloaded your list of elk hunting tips from my website, surf on over to elkhuntersguide.com if you're not already there, and download that free list of elk hunting tips. You'll be glad you did. Until next time, shoot straight.